versions of Dr. Heinz Doofenshmirtz from Phineas and Ferb. Danville's resident evil scientist using innator after innator to attempt to take over the entire tri-state area. I actually hesitated to include Doof on this list. Not because I don't love him, indeed I think he's one of the funniest characters on television today, but because most of the time he's not actually a villain. No matter how hard he tries to be one.
You think I'm evil, right? Thank you, Perry the Platypus. Thank you.
Yes, he's ostensibly the main villain of the show, even though in every canon episode he and the title characters are completely unaware of each other's existence. But he usually doesn't quite have what it takes to actually be the villain. He wants to be evil, but when he's not stopped by Perry, he's stopped by his own incompetence, yes, but also his own compassion and innate goodness.
I'm going to have to do the right thing here, aren't I?
But once in a while, we get a peek at some alternate realities. Realities with a version of Doof who actually is in power and actually is evil. The first is an alternate future where Candace's success in busting her brothers inadvertently led to Doofenshmirtz's success in ruling with an iron fist. Yeah, his evil is still largely played for laughs, but it's still an oppressive dictatorship where everybody must bend over backwards for him to the point of everybody having the same name just so we won't have to remember who people are. And it serves as legitimate stakes for the episode.
It's gotten really hard to defeat Doofenshmirtz ever since we swore that oath to obey him.
But even more terrifying is the Doofenshmirtz from an alternate dimension. A Doofenshmirtz who only needed a solitary mild backstory to become evil and all-powerful. A Doofenshmirtz who literally reprogrammed Perry to carry out his bidding. A Doofenshmirtz who outlaws summer, encourages slave labor, and has no qualms about murdering children, animals, and less competent versions of himself.
If I had a nickel for every time I was doomed by a puppet, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice, right?
And then we literally get to see our Doof's innate goodness in conflict with Alterna Doof's unstoppable evilness. And I say the whole thing is way better than any Disney Channel original movie deserves to be.
Double Doofenshmirtz coming at you Friday.
Hey everyone, Dave here, and right now I'm geeking out over Phineas and Ferb.
Dave's Obsession of the moment.
Phineas and Ferb, Disney's beloved hybrid of Ferris Bueller, Pinky and the Brain, Dexter's Laboratory, Michigan J. Frog, Calvin and Hobbes, Wallace and Gromit, Ralph Wolf, and Sam Sheepdog. Okay, how many disparate influences does the show need to have before you can just call it original? Created by the brilliant duo of Dan Povenmire and Jeff Swampy Marsh, who met working on The Simpsons, then worked together on Rocko's Modern Life, and then worked separately on everything else, Phineas and Ferb is, for my money, an example of that rarest of beast, a show that actually deserves every ounce of its widespread mainstream success. Not only is the show delightful in its own right, but that success led Disney Channel to see the value in shows that were actually, creator-driven, and not just committee-driven. Now, kids' cartoons have tried to reach out with humor aimed at the parents for a long time, with mixed results.
You realize most of the kids watching this show have never even seen a typewriter, right? That's a Breaking Bad reference. I realize we don't share much of the same audience.
Aren't you a little young to know about all these old detective shows?
Yes. Yes, we are.
But while pop culture references are one source of humor here, they're not the only source of humor. This isn't DreamWorks in the mid-2000s. There's a healthy dose of witty dialogue, absurd surrealism, good old-fashioned cartoon slapstick, and actual grounded humor driven by the heightened but relatable cast of characters.
Oh, Phineas! It's not that funny. Stand down, Fireside Girl.
Throw in some of the catchiest and cleverest songs of any animated series since Animaniacs, and you've got the perfect recipe for a show marketed directly to me. Or to a 6-year-old with my exact tastes, I guess.
Thank you for making a kids show that parents can enjoy. Because there's a lot of them that we can't, and
what
so
makes you think this is a kid show?
Yeah, it's true.
And yeah, some people have an aversion to the show because Disney Channel and songs and Disney pop stars lending voices and singing those songs. But that's unfair to the wide variety of other artists who have performed songs for the show, ranging from Bowling for Soup to Perry Grip to Professor Elemental to freaking Davy Jones and Peter Noon to... what's his name? Oh, that's right, Slash. And he was the one who approached Disney asking if he could do a song for Phineas and Ferb. Plus, the cast also includes actors from cult favorites like 30 Rock and the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Well, this isn't much of a horror movie. Where are the rock and roll musical numbers?
Not to mention the incredibly eclectic list of guest stars and a fan base that includes quite a few of your favorite people in comedy.
There you are, Petty. Petty the Platypus.
In addition to being wildly entertaining, there are many facets of the show I find incredibly fascinating to discuss. Several of them have been addressed elsewhere on the internet, and believe me, this won't be the only video I make about the show. But for right now, I'd like to focus on the show's ongoing continuity. And you may be thinking, continuity? Isn't this the show that infamously sticks to a rigid formula? Isn't every episode the same? Well, you're right that there is a formula to the series. Phineas and Ferb decide to build some massive fun thing, Candace tries to bust them, meanwhile Doofenshmirtz tries to take over the tri-state area with his latest inator, Perry fights him, steers things in a direction that both disables Doof's inator and removes all evidence of Phineas and Ferb's adventure.
Hi, kids.
Why don't you come in for snacks?
Why don't you come in for some snacks?
Oh, there you are, Perry.
Oh, there you are, Perry.
And Ferb says...
You know gladiators were Roman, not Greek.
It's always the same thing every day.
The show spent the first several episodes establishing this formula, and then nearly every subsequent episode parodying, deconstructing, generally playing with, or occasionally outright ignoring this formula. But for a show known for its strong adherence to formula, what really fascinates me is the stuff that grows from episode to episode. It doesn't take long to realize that this is a show that can make the most out of a potentially repetitive formula. I mean, this is a show that can make even its clip show episodes unique and entertaining. Watching each episode is like watching a new improv herald that uses the same basic start and end points. In fact, Dan and Swampy have often described the writing process of the show as the closest animation can get to improv.
It's probably the closest thing to an improv show that you could do in animation. We do an outline, basically what, the basic idea of a story, and then we give it to two storyboard artists who sit in a room and try to make each other laugh.
And if that's the case, they've managed to grow Danville into quite the expansive world, all through the power of yes and. Oh, mythology and long-term narrative aren't really brought to the forefront all that often, unlike your Adventure Times or your Gravity's Falls, but they lurk in the background when you know where to look for them. It's a cliche to compare wacky comedy cities to Springfield, so instead I'll compare it to Pawnee. A few core characters navigating a sea of delightful lunatics where even a one-line townsperson might recur and have recognizable traits. Minor background characters who have only the most tenuous connection to any of the main subplots reappear in running gags across the series, helping the world to feel simultaneously more expansive and more intimate.
How do you do that?
I had seen scattered episodes of the show here and there and enjoyed it, but didn't really fall in love with it until I sat down and watched the series in order, and saw how things in the series unfold.
Sold!
Get me up to speed.
Admittedly, the show often follows what I call the Futurama approach to continuity, which is to say, pay attention to continuity only when that's funnier than ignoring it.
I don't believe in spaceships.
But, Buford, you've been in a spaceship. Several, actually.
I'm a skeptic.
And while the first season largely seems to consist of relatively standalone comedy sketch episodes, they start to pepper in callbacks and running gags, referring to previous adventures in detail.
Bow, chicka, bow, wow. That's what my baby said.
Mow, 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 and my heart starts pumping.
Reminding us that even though everything was seemingly reset at the end of each episode, the episode still happened, the characters still experienced it, and any changes the characters underwent are still in effect, even if some of the characters are incapable of learning from some of their mistakes. But it would soon move beyond mere callbacks and into actual character arcs, all on a show where the characters famously do the same thing every day.
Same thing tomorrow?
Nah, I like to keep moving forward.
Despite being the title characters of the series, Phineas and Ferb are rarely the protagonist of any given episode.
What Phineas and Ferb are doing is not really the story, because they're not being changed by it or growing as characters, because they're just always, these super positive people.
They're the Ferris Buellers of the episode.
What Phineas and Ferb are doing is the setting, and what Candace is doing is often the story.
The formula is in place to bring these characters together, and once they are together, their relationships can grow. Take Buford, for instance. He was introduced as a fairly standard cartoon bully. And in the early days, he was the closest thing to an antagonist that Phineas and Ferb, at least knowingly, faced. But as he spent more and more time around the gang, he started to show other sides of his personality.
I want to float around. Like men.
He started to show his insecurities, his esoteric hobbies, and his affections.
One day somebody's gonna ask me for some obscure musical instrument, and it ain't gonna be there. What's gonna happen then?
And as is often the case, it became clear that he had a soft side.
And that's how I won my goldfish. I named it Biff, after my mother.
Okay, any show where the family of bullies has a member named Biff and a member named Buford absolutely knows the key to my heart. So Phineas and Ferb started using their resources to help him, and he started seeing the gang as his friends. Although reconciling his new friendships with his inclination towards bullying is an ongoing process. And it helps make Buford and Baljeet especially one of many interesting and dynamic relationships throughout the series.
I was going to eat those jelly donuts.
Missed you, Baljeet.
Right back at you, buddy.
Early on, one of the biggest running threads was Candace's crush on a boy named Jeremy. Often this crush served as another obstacle in her quest to bust her brothers, as she was often put in situations where she could either pursue busting or pursue Jeremy, but she had to choose one or the other. And as this came up more and more, her relationship with Jeremy actually started to grow. And eventually he stopped being this unattainable other, and they actually did start dating. Which brought a whole new set of Candace's insecurities and neuroses to the forefront and led to even more ongoing developments. And there are several other relationships and character statuses that develop from episode to episode, such as Isabella's crush on Phineas, Doof's nemesis triangle with Perry and Peter, Monogram's mentoring of Carl, Irving's development from fanboy to friend, the resurgence of Linda's past as a one-hit wonder, Lawrence and Linda's consistently happy but occasionally peculiar marriage, Candace's friendship with Stacy, Stacy's newfound knowledge, Candace's relationship with her hallucinatory zebra, Roger's political trajectory, Doof's rivalry with Rodney, Norm's quest for Doof's approval, Doof trying to be a good father to Vanessa, Candace's friendship with Vanessa, Ferb's crush on Vanessa, Vanessa's relationship with Johnny, Vanessa's relationship with Monty. Actually, I think the only character with more potential love interest than Vanessa is Baljeet. The formula of Phineas and Ferb is a solid structure. It's not a restrictive cage forging each episode to conform to the same shape, but it's more like a jungle gym for these characters to play on. As the series went on, more and more episodes would devote more of their time to character growth, story progression, and world building, with the expected beats of the formula set aside, where the audience doesn't need to sit through every step, but can easily fill in the gaps. Seriously, sometimes the title characters just sit in the background for an entire episode, but we can still easily piece together what they're up to. But it all started with a well-defined structure, with just a few fleeting moments of sometimes inadvertent groundwork laid here and there, adding flavor to the familiar shape. And it's no surprise that half the fun of the show was finding variations within a formula and noticing the little unique things in each seemingly similar episode. Because one of the central themes of the show is finding the little ways to make each day special, discovering the extraordinary among the ordinary. Because after all, there's no such thing as just an ordinary day. Every day's a brand new day, carpe diem. Well, I for one feel like going outside and building my own roller coaster or going on my own adventure. But I'll probably just stay inside and binge watch more Phineas and Ferb. So, until next time, this is Dave, signing off. The Phineas and Ferb connection. Hey, did you know that the Phineas and Ferb Star Wars special is great? Because it is. And I know I'm not the first to point out the similarities between the special and the film, but I can't help it. Both of them feature a stormtrooper facing the morality of what they're doing for the first time, while a Darth Vader wannabe tries to prove his own strength. And even though none of the original Star Wars cast reprised their role for the cartoon, a surprising number of Phineas and Ferb actors showed up in Force Awakens. 3 is a surprising number, right? Simon Pegg appeared in both, and of course Ferb himself, Thomas Brody Sangster, briefly shows up in the movie as an Imperial officer. And Perry himself, D. Bradley Baker, did some additional voices in the movie. None of that actually means anything significant, I just find it amusing. And I haven't made quite enough videos where I talk about Phineas and Ferb yet. Welcome to the D-List, the show where I know what I'm gonna do today. I'm gonna list things while my name begins with a D. As you can probably imagine, I am quite excited for Milo Murphy's Law, the new series from Dan Povenmire and Jeff Swampy Marsh starring Weird Al Yankovic. Let's take a moment to appreciate that we're seeing such a convergence of talent within our lifetime. And in anticipation of the new series, I thought it only fitting to once again look back on Dan and Swampy's previous show, Phineas and Ferb. I've discussed this show at length in the past, and I probably will discuss it again at length in the future, and last time I discussed it, it actually got the attention of Dan and Swampy. So if you guys are watching again, hi, I really like your show, and in fact, I'm going to talk about some specific episodes I like. My 30 personal favorite episodes of Phineas and Ferb. Now, I'm only going to be talking about the show itself, not the bite-sized spin-offs, although they were pretty great. Especially Doof's Daily Dirt. I really wish that would come back. Doofenshmirtz's Daily Dirt's underrated. And just to make it easier for myself to narrow down, I'm only including 11 and 22-minute episodes of the show. I won't be including the movie, the hour-long specials, or the two-parter Where's Perry, but they're all really fantastic and would probably steal all the top spots if I was including them. And even with all those limitations, I was still only able to narrow it down to 30 episodes. So let's not waste any more time. Hey, where's Perry? Number 30. Delivery of Destiny. While everybody in Danville goes about their regular business, we follow Paul the delivery guy, played by Christian Slater, in the US.
Yes, I just delivered to Phineas and Ferb. Yes, they are.
In the UK airing of the episode, he was played by Simon Pegg.
What'd you guys do, install a homing sensor?
Actually, we just put a clip on it.
Cool.
Yeah, no disrespect to Mr. Slater, but the UK got the better end of that deal. Paul has doubts about his career as a delivery guy, even after he accidentally wins a radio contest to have Love Handle as his personal rock and Greek chorus. But as he delivers supplies to all the characters, he finally starts to find his role in the world. This is basically the textbook example of how the show could use our knowledge of the formula as a shorthand. We don't see a whole lot of Phineas and Ferb in the episode, but we always know what they're up to while we're focusing on this minor character, fleshing out the world of Danville, and seeing how the rest of the citizens are affected by all our main characters. And the constant Love Handle soundtrack is a nice bonus.
Speculative fiction is such an addiction. Speculative fiction.
Number 29. Tip of the day. When Phineas and Ferb learn that the tip of the shoelace is called the aglet, they think it's essential that the rest of the world knows too. This annoys Candace, who is pretty sure that this trivial piece of trivia doesn't matter. Meanwhile, an embarrassing old video of Doofs has gone viral.
Agent P, this is no laughing matter. Limericks are funny.
This episode runs on pure silliness, as the ridiculous magical powers yielded by the knowledge of the word aglet are revealed.
If you dish aglets one more time, I'll fray your head so bad it won't fit through your shirt hole.
And it's all tied together by the absurdly catchy song, ensuring that none of us will ever forget the word aglet again.
We're gonna tie the world together. One word at a time.
Number 28. Unfair Science Fair Parts 1 and 2. It's a summer science fair. Baljeet enlists Phineas and Ferb's help with his portal to Mars, while Doof works on the traditional baking soda volcano. And the events of the science fair lead to two separate stories. One involving Baljeet and Doof's development of their science fair projects while Candace competes against Brenda Song to get a job working with Jeremy. And one involving Candace paranoid that her friends don't want to hang out with her anymore, so she runs away and becomes Queen of Mars. Arguably, these are technically two separate episodes, but what makes them so special is how they work in tandem, with the second episode woven into the timeline of the first as an in-between-quel. That said, each part is still entertaining in its own right, and Queen of Mars is one of the catchiest songs from the whole run of the show. And that's saying something.
'Cause I'm the Queen of Mars, I was invisible on Earth. It only took a magic portal to Mars to give me some self-worth.
The show would later continue to explore this notion of two separate but related 11-minute episodes with the Pinky the Chihuahua stories.
Unknown guy is out. Peace!
Number 27.
It's the bully code. I live my life by it.
If a nerd should save a bully's life, the bully is the nerd's slave for life. Should is misspelled.
When Baljeet saves Buford from choking, Buford forces himself to become Baljeet's servant, which is more annoying than helpful. Meanwhile, Candace accidentally texts some embarrassing pictures to Jeremy and tries to retrieve them before he sees them.
Here, try something. I'm gonna go et gay the onfe. You know I don't speak Spanish.
The bully becoming the nerd slave trope is an old one, as the song points out.
Well, the story is old. It's a 70s sitcom cliche.
But pairing it with Buford's aggressive misguidedness and Baljeet's short temper just might make it the funniest example of the genre.
Anything but go away.
Number 26.
Forget all your worries.
Everyone in Danville is preparing for the big 50s doo-wop hop and car show. Lawrence is fixing up an old car for Candace, and the boys help expedite the process.
You guys are so awesome!
some!
Doof tries to ensure his tank wins the car show with a Rustinator, and Major Monogram tries to find out who Monty's dating. This may not be the most exciting adventure, and it may not go for the wildest laughs, but it's just a pleasant little event for the characters. It's nice to see an episode where everything works out for Candace. I was surprised and delighted that she got to keep her car at the end, and it didn't fall victim to the Rustinator. Yeah, conflict is the building block of story and all that, but sometimes you just want to see the characters you like be happy for once. Plus, this episode contains my favorite Doofenshmirtz line of all time.
Wait, red dust, rust. I wonder if that's where that word came from. I'm gonna go look up its etymology. Yeah, I looked it up. It turns out entomology is the study of insects. Go figure.
Number 25. Lost in Danville. A mysterious hatch falls in the backyard and the gang tries to open it. Meanwhile, Doof has been kidnapped by the mysterious Professor Mystery, voiced by John Locke himself, Terry O'Quinn.
Mystery is my allure.
Ah, this is gonna be a fun conversation.
This was widely publicized as the Lost theme episode of Phineas and Ferb, since it had a story by guest writer Damon Lindelof, a guest appearance by Terry O'Quinn, and a handful of Lost references peppered throughout, but that wasn't the original impetus for this episode. Lindelof was a longtime Phineas and Ferb fan, and he had one important question for Dan and Swampy. Who's Peter the Panda's regular nemesis when he's not fighting Doof? Dan and Swampy had no answer, so they offered Lindelof the chance to write the episode about it. So basically, we're watching Damon Lindelof's Phineas and Ferb fanfic become canon. Well, alternate universe canon, but still sharing the same multiverse. But it works as a Lost-themed episode, and a chance for Lindelof to play with some self-deprecation, as the most common critiques of his work are parodied.
There better be a satisfying explanation for this when it's over, or I'm gonna be merciless on my blog.
Professor Mystery's relationship problems with Peter are clearly representative of communication problems in real relationships, but at the same time, they spoof Lindelof's own trend of focusing so hard on being mysterious in his stories that he doesn't give you enough information to latch onto, to understand stakes and motivations and develop empathy.
I mean, I'd be so much more concerned if I understood what the stakes were.
This is the heart of the mystery versus urgency matter that film crit Hulk wrote about, and here it's tackled clearly and humorously and in a Billy Joel pastiche.
Talk to him. Tell him every twisted scheme that's in your head.
But even without the Lost jokes, it's still a fun character exploration of Doof, Perry, Peter, and Peter's life outside of Danville. This episode also has Jane Kaczmarek and Rob Morrow, but we never got a Malcolm in the Middle or Northern Exposure themed episode of Phineas and Ferb. What gives? Number 24. Where's Pinky? Candace is meeting Jeremy at City Hall for lunch.
City Hall serves lunch?
I thought they only serve subpoenas. Oh, come on. What's a guy gotta do to get a rim shot around here?
But finds herself trapped in Wayne Brady's mandatory tour. Meanwhile, Isabel is worried because Pinky's gone missing, as he teams up with Perry to stop Doof from simply taking the deed to the tri-state area.
It seems he's discovered that whoever has the deed automatically becomes the ruler. It's an old law from a simpler time.
Usually Pinky has his own missions to deal with, so it's fun to see the chattering little guy give Perry a hand. And Buford taking on the role of a dog to help track down Pinky is, well, it pretty much just accentuates the Buford we already know and love.
Good boy!
Yeah, I'm a good boy, right?
Yes, you are!
Huh? Oh, that better not be the mailman.
And we learn a lot about the tri-state area in this episode, although it's almost impossible to gauge if any of the information we learn is accurate in any way. I mean, it's all plausible in a universe as wacky as this, but then again, how reliable is our tour guide?
I was sent by Yarnak to help uninformed citizens in need. Now, if you'll excuse me, I am needed elsewhere. Whoosh!
Number 23. Hail Doofania.
Norm, I know what we're going to do today.
Ah, the classic formula switcheroo, known in some circles as pulling a chicken roaster. Phineas's mad scientist side comes out when he schemes to create a rainbow for Isabella.
Behold! The Rainbowinator!
While Doofenshmirtz just wants to create his own place to get away.
Aren't you a little old to be building a fort?
No, I'm not.
Vanessa, who got Candace's dry cleaning by mistake, tries in vain to bust Doof's evil to her mother, while Candace is paranoid about her friends seeing her in Vanessa's clothes. Meanwhile, Perry, back from the vet, is just trying to get the episode started. This is not the first time Vanessa's Candace side has come out. They even shared a song about it in an earlier episode, but it only seems to be accentuated when they switch clothes. And this was the first time it was made blatant just how close Phineas and Doofenshmirtz are to each other. They've always been two sides of the same triangle, But even when they're working on the type of scheme the other would usually work on, the thing that separates them are their motivations. Doof's driving selfishness versus Phineas's unstoppable altruism. Doof is trying to get away from everybody he knows, but Phineas is trying to make things better for everyone he knows. The episode also serves as a fantastic showcase for Norm, marking the first time he shows personality beyond just his use of 1950s catchphrases.
Now, where is he?
I'm right here, sir.
Number 22, Sidetracked. When Doof hijacks a train that runs right along the US-Canadian border, it's time for international diplomacy, as Perry must team up with Canadian agent Lila Lollenberry, played by Samantha freaking Bee.
Oh, shoot! I see we're trapped by societal convention.
But he hasn't quite forgiven her yet for a past mission gone wrong. But the two must work together to stop Doof in his evil exchange program with Professor Bannister, played by Kevin freaking McDonald.
You think that just because I'm polite, smell like pine needles, and overemphasize my teas, I'm Canadian?
It's always a fun change of pace when the adventure takes us away from Danville, and Doof's great train robbery is an opportunity for plenty of comedy and plenty of action.
Here's your station! Say hi to your wife for me!
Well, someone's home early.
The conductor says hi.
Perry learning a lesson about working together is a little on the nose, but at least the song admits how on the nose it is.
We're on a handcar. We're a real doubleheader. It's a heavy-handed metaphor for how we work together.
And there's a real possibility that I will never stop laughing at the helicopter fight gag.
This is people fighting on a helicopter, not two helicopters fighting. Though that would have been cool, it might have been more exciting. Let's take a look. No, that looked better in my head.
And everything wraps up with a surprisingly touching Ocean's 11 tribute. Number 21, The Necessary Roughness. It's shopping day at the superstore for everyone in town, and everyone's after potassium and phenionite. Except for Phineas, who's finally learned how to do some hardcore relaxing. And Linda's off on her own as usual. Doof needs the potassium to power an innator, Baljeet needs it for a science prize, and Candace needs it as a lantern for Jeremy. Having so many characters going after the same MacGuffin is a great setup for hijinks, as Candace, Stacy, Buford, Baljeet, and Perry all get to engage in some slapstick hilarity on their quests. But primarily, this episode is a showcase for Vanessa and Ferb. Vanessa wants to prove her responsibility to Doof so he'll buy her a car, and Ferb wants to help Vanessa because he's had a crush on her from a distance for a long time. No, I mean a really long time, like since they were in Love Actually together. This is Vanessa and Ferb's first extended interaction, and while it may not end in romance, it does start a camaraderie between them that carries on throughout the series.
Well, Ferb, you certainly know how to show a girl a good time.
Number 20.
Happy birthday, Isabella!
All Isabella wants for her birthday is some alone time with Phineas, but he's too busy enlisting everybody to put on a big spectacle for her.
I've carried a lot of squirming bags in my time, but this is the first time I knew who was in it.
Meanwhile, Doofenshmirtz turns everything that bugs him into literal bugs, and Stacy watches a horror movie by herself until she discovers a big secret. It's always been clear that Phineas cares for Isabella, just not necessarily in the way she wants. And he doesn't really respond to subtlety, hence everything having to be over the top and grandiose. And Isabella's frustration with his well-meaning misguidance is relatable, although I still can't tell if the desperation she's reached at this point is funny or tragic.
Trapped under rubble, that's awesome. Moving the piano if we only could.
But the real reason I love this episode is Stacy's subplot. She's always been an entertaining character, a relatively level-headed foil for Candace, but this episode changed her dynamic in a way I didn't see coming, and it just made me appreciate her even more. Number 19.
Dude, we're getting the band back together!
When Lawrence forgets his wedding anniversary with Linda, Candace and the boys scheme to reunite Love Handle, the band they saw on their first date. Meanwhile, Doof tries to put on the perfect Sweet 16 for Vanessa. This is the first time we see Candace working with the boys and actually trying to prevent Linda from seeing what they're up to, and it explores their relationship beyond the role set by the show's formula. It also explores Doof's genuine desire to do right by his daughter, even if his methods are expectedly misguided. And this was the first episode to explore Lawrence and Linda's relationship outside of the kids, fleshing them out into larger characters. The episode is also a tribute to music, with Jarrett Reddick showcasing a brief history of musical styles and how they evolved into each other, Carlos Alazraqui focusing on the stylish aspects of the music industry, and Steve Zahn exploring rhythm in the best library musical number since Marion the Librarian.
Besides, I ain't got rhythm. No, I ain't got rhythm.
Steve Zahn has some experience playing a member of a one-hit wonder. Number 18. Act Your Age.
Are we ever going to see Phineas and Ferb as teenagers?
Yes. Yes, we are.
In fact, we're going to see it right now.
It's 10 years in the future. Phineas is trying to choose a college, but he gets distracted when he finally finds out about Isabella's crush on him.
When she looked at you, her pupils actually formed little hearts. Like, I do not know how that is physically possible. She changed her eyeballs.
And he starts to wonder if all of his adventures were just wastes of time, distracting him from what he should have focused on. Meanwhile, Doof tries to speed along a midlife crisis. Although there were 2-hour-long specials after this episode was in many ways the true series finale of Phineas and Ferb, or at least the finale for Phineas and the kids, giving us a peek at their future and where everybody would eventually end up. Although I couldn't help but notice that they left some questions open. Notice they deliberately avoided ever showing Linda and the kids together, or Perry and the family together, and thus avoided the question about if anybody found out about anybody else's secrets. We may have gotten a peek at a future happy ending, but there could still be room for other adventures along the way someday. But even if that doesn't happen, this is a nice place for our characters to end up.
I can't believe it. It seems like only yesterday we were drawing our first doodles of these kids.
Yeah, I know. It's a sweet episode, but it's
going to college.
It's really everything. It's just a cartoon. I'll just.
Number 17.
The Chronicles of Meep.
When a cute little alien crash lands in Phineas and Ferb's backyard, they get sucked up in his intergalactic hijinks. Meanwhile, Doof tries to retrieve his long-lost balloon best friend. This episode features a wildly eclectic guest cast, including Lorenzo Lamas, David Mitchell from Mitchell and Webb,
Steal rare creatures from their homeworlds and imprison them here on my ship.
You're a zookeeper?
No, that sort of legitimizes it.
You're a poacher!
Yes.
And the one and only Don LaFontaine in one of his final appearances.
In a world. There, I said it. Happy.
The premise for this episode provides so much fantastic material, ranging from Isabella being hilariously bitter at Phineas's apparent obliviousness to how cute she is, to the cramming in of as many beloved sci-fi references as they can.
Get away from him, Mitch!
On top of all that, this episode introduced Doof's Raised by Ocelots backstory. Bonus points for the audio commentaries, which were on a Toys R Us exclusive bonus disc, so they're a little hard to track down now, but if you can get your hands on them, they're absolutely worth your time. Number 16. Phineas and Ferb get busted. When Candace finally gets Linda to see Phineas and Ferb's dangerous invention, the boys are sent away to reform school. Candace revels in her victory for a little while, but soon starts to regret what she's done and becomes determined to bust the boys out. There had been some breaks in the standard formula in previous episodes, but this was the episode that proved that this show could do anything. This show has no limitations, other than maybe those set by standards and practices. This episode gets a little borderline preachy with its on-the-nose pro-creativity message, but at least it does it with plenty of Kubrick homages, including a very intimidating Clancy Brown going all Full Metal Jacket as the sergeant. Of course, the events of the episode are undone by the end, because otherwise there'd be no series, and they're undone in a predictable way, but at least there's a healthy dose of surrealist dressing to the expected beats. And along the way, we get fantastic character moments, and the most emotional song ever to provide a dictionary definition for the phrase Little Brothers.
Little brothers, 'cause you're younger, we're related, and you're boys.
And we're halfway through the list now, so join us next week for the top 15. Until then, this is Dave, signing off. Carl, where's the rest of the list? Welcome back to the D-List, and now on to my top 15 favorite Phineas and Ferb episodes. So, Number 15, The Curse of Candace. After seeing a teen vampire drama, a mishap at the theater causes Candace to worry that she's becoming a vampire.
You really rented a bat?
Yeah, I know. It seemed like a good idea at the time.
Oh no, I think it's really paying off here.
A fear that's only spurred on by Phineas and Ferb fulfilling their friends' requests, and by Doof making everything a little more old-fashioned.
Yeah, my dad said I could drive it, just as long as I didn't get a scratch on it. Oh, my dad's gonna kill me.
Why, dude? It's not scratched.
It was inevitable that a show with a teenage girl protagonist would eventually do some sort of Twilight homage, but to make it more fun for themselves, they make it more of an action movie.
Jared, Michael, don't do this!
It's the end of the line, Jared.
I expect this from your kind, Michael. Football players, I mean.
And when your werewolf character is a Michael J. Fox cameo, and your Edward and Bella characters are Stephen Moyer and Anna Paquin cameos, you're really making this more for yourself than for the Twilight crowd. And I applaud you for it.
It sounds like a vampire to me.
Number 14. Sipping with the Enemy. While Phineas and the gang prepare a magic show, Vanessa and Monty reconnect in a coffee shop.
Cappuccino with chocolate powder on top and a ginger scone, please.
And 2 straws, no doubt.
A coffee shop Doof is headed toward to stock up on espresso to power his coolinator.
Yeah, man, you know, it's all about my blog. You know, I blog about blogs that blog about other blogs.
So Vanessa enlists Perry's help to keep Doof distracted. I've talked before about my love for the show's ability to weave long-term character growth throughout the beats of the formula, and this is a prime example of that as we see a relationship begin to sprout. Monty and Vanessa's flirting is surprisingly grounded and natural considering the zany, over-the-top world they live in.
Yeah, where's your dad's date ruininator?
So this is a date?
Well, isn't it?
And they are an agreeable couple, but they don't see eye to eye on everything.
If I had a nickel for every time I got the "your father couldn't make it, he's working late" call, but I guess that's really your dad's fault.
So, what exactly do you mean by that?
Leading to an instance where Vanessa actually defends her dad, showing some payoff in their growing relationship as well.
I'll have you know, my father is a misunderstood genius.
But Monty and Vanessa's disagreements don't get in the way of their desire for a second date.
Mind flip!
Number 13. A Real Boy. In the first norm-centric episode, Doof sarcastically responds to Rodney's sexist assertion that having a son is better than having a daughter, but when he worries that Vanessa overheard him and took it the wrong way, he tries to make things right with the forget-about-it-inator, all the time ignoring Norm, who wishes Doof would treat him like a son. Meanwhile, Candace resorts to hypnotism to get over her obsession with busting the boys.
When James Braid published The Rationale of Somnambulism, in which he invented the term hypnotism, named after the Greek god Hypnos.
How do you even know that?
It's written on your poster. Apparently, he also invented the comb-over. Freaky.
Why would I have bought that poster?
Yeah, this episode is funny and entertaining like all the others, but Norm's loneliness and desire for Doof's approval is downright heartbreaking. Doof's genuine love for his daughter tends to embody his most redeeming features, but his cruelty to Norm's face is about the evilest thing we ever see him do. Well, in this timeline anyway. I should probably make a whole video about Norm someday.
Oh, I'm fine, all things considered. Wanna be a real boy, but I don't wanna sound embittered. But thanks for asking. Seriously.
Number 12. Ladies and gentlemen, meet Max Modem. When Linda is invited to bring back the Lindana persona for an 80s revival show, Candace is excited for the prospect of fame, but Lawrence is worried that she'll finally realize just how far out of his league she is. So the boys help pass him off as an 80s has-been of his own.
I think you're ready for the big time.
Correction, I am ready to have once been part of the big time.
Meanwhile, Doof tries to stage an alien invasion.
I want to see the clown.
Sally, he's no clown, he's a nut job.
Linda's past as Lindana had come up several times before, but this was the first time we see how intimidated Lawrence is by this past.
Look at her, boys. She's magnificent.
And you will be too, Dad.
But of course he has nothing to worry about. Their love is stronger than the allure of one-hit wonderdom.
I've got an absolutely wonderful husband back home.
Lawrence and Linda are a really underrated pair of cartoon parents. The important thing is, finally Richard O'Brien gets a musical number.
You know, I feel strangely comfortable like this.
Number 11. Finding Mary McGuffin. When Lawrence accidentally sells Candace's beloved doll to Doof at a garage sale, she enlists the newly detective-obsessed Phineas and Ferb to track down the aptly named Mary McGuffin. So they scour the tri-state area using every detective persona they can conjure.
Aren't you a little young to be detectives?
If it's all the same to you, ma'am, we'll ask the questions.
But Doof has given the doll to Vanessa because it was the only thing she wanted as a child, causing Vanessa to reassess her dorky dad. The show has a lot of fun with detective homages, from film noir classics to cop shows throughout the decades, and the episode marks a major step forward in Vanessa and Doof's relationship, for better and for worse.
Wow, that is evil. Honey, I am so proud of you. It felt good, didn't it? Yeah, we can build on this.
Not so bad a day after all.
Number 10. Bullseye. While Phineas and Ferb play with a giant dart and Linda tries her hand at modern art, Lawrence goes to the wrong address and accidentally enters the Leader of Love Muffin competition, facing off against Doof and Rodney in an evil off he is not even close to qualified for.
Oh, excuse me, is this the way to the stage?
It looks like we have a late entry.
This episode is primarily an extended comedy sketch, serving as a wonderful vehicle for Lawrence and his oh-so-British politeness.
I don't know how you did it. I don't even think I understood the event, but good show.
But when actual stakes come into play and Lawrence starts to actually become evil, the episode is another testament to how much Perry cares about his family and how well he knows them, and just how strong the family is.
So how'd it go, Dad?
I'm not absolutely sure, boys, but I think I just became king of the pharmacists.
Number 9. The Beak. When Phineas and Ferb try out some new skateboarding armor, they accidentally become a superhero. As you do.
This is so much worse than hitting the ground!
But this new beacon of hope brings a new villain out of hiding, so the Beak must fight off this villain using every superhero pun in his arsenal.
Maybe this'll be a hit.
Yeah, see, cause he hit him.
I'm not an idiot, Charles.
But the more ominous threat is that for once, Phineas has to keep a secret from Isabella. Meanwhile, Doof finally tries the direct approach and just tells everyone he already took over the tri-state area. Some people are more gullible than others. It's fun to see the Phineas and Ferb half of the show take on the action mantle, while the Doof and Perry half takes up the character moments and sillier gags.
Melanie, could you come in here?
That would be a bowl of mints.
I've got my finger in a bowl of mints?
Yes, you do.
Oh, well, that would explain why there's so many buttons.
And it's quite the change of pace to see a self-appointed supervillain who has no connection to Love Muffin.
You can call me Kaka-Poo-Poo! It's a family name, loosely translated as the Strong Fist or that Strong Fist. Thank you very much!
Guest star Ben Stiller is perfectly cast as the snooty villain, only complimented by his real-life wife Christine Taylor's cameo as the villain's wife.
Where you been?
Oh, hi, honey.
Shush you! You were supposed to take me shopping. I need me some more throwing chairs.
Narrator guy is out. Peace!
Number 8. Phineas and Ferb's Quantum Boogaloo. Phineas and Ferb go 20 years into the future for a tool they need, but when the 35-year-old Candace sees them, some repressed busting urges rise to the surface. And she goes back to the start of that summer to put an end to their nonsense once and for all. But doing so causes more damage than she anticipated. This is a sequel to the first Time Machine episode, It's About Time, and it's a sequel to the pilot episode Roller Coaster, and it's the show's version of Back to the Future Part 2, a movie I just may love wholeheartedly. The series has always shown how Phineas and Doof's projects keep each other in check, but this was the first to blatantly explore the consequences if there were to be an imbalance. And with the number of timelines at play here, it's hard to tell what from this episode actually has any consequences on future episodes, and in this particular case, that's part of the fun. Number 7. My Fair Goalie. The Fletcher side of the family comes to visit, and from the looks of their eyes, they might come from the Ardman region of the UK. Ferb's cousins think his time in the States has Americanized him, and they doubt he could even play a game of football anymore. Phineas ups the ante, as always, by suggesting the previously hypothetical Football X7.
Sweaty Men Playing Games Network presents Football X7. Theoretical, speculative conjecture, or not that what we just said with the conjecture thing.
But Ferb's nervous due to an unexpected curse involving an emu attack. Meanwhile, Candace goes full Eliza Doolittle and tries to get proper English training to become more ladylike to impress Jeremy.
What, do polite people not have bookshelves in your country?
Linda's frustrated when Lawrence's brother keeps beating him in petty competitions.
Lawrence, what's going on here? I've seen you put on more shirts than that.
And Doof's sick, so he's trying to sit this one out. This episode is one of the most Ferb-centric as he faces the duality of his English origins and his new American home and family, and he comes to the only logical conclusion.
Actually, lads, I'm not a Brit or a Yank. I'm just Ferb.
But most of the joys of this episode come from the onslaught of non sequiturs, absurdist gags, and quotable turns of phrase.
I guess I could smack a little gob myself.
Like a comfy old knit woolen friend named Joycey Terrific from the hinterland.
Mummy, that man's name is a palindrome.
Look away, Johnny. Look away.
Is it my imagination, or is that a Football X7 stadium?
It's your imagination. That's just a mailbox. But there is one on this side of the bus.
Number 6. Bully bromance breakup. When Baljeet has finally had enough of Buford's bullying, the two go their separate ways. Doof enlists Buford's help in taking over the tri-state area, while Baljeet is determined to climb Danville Mountain without the aid of inventions, leaving Phineas and Ferb jonesing for a fix. The longer the show went on, the more the two previously distinct halves of the series started to cross over, and this was one of the funniest examples. Doof and Buf make an entertaining duo, and I would have loved to see them paired together in more episodes, but of course it doesn't take long for Baljeet and Buford to realize how much they miss each other. And Buford saves the day, but also gets his comeuppance, so everybody wins. And Phineas's invention withdrawals are disturbingly hilarious. Apparently the one thing in life he wasn't prepared for was being forbidden to prepare.
If we hadn't been able to invent something soon, I was going to scream.
Number 5. Meepless in Seattle. Meep is back, desperately trying to stop Big Mitch from ingesting pure Cutonium and taking over their planet with cuteness. But Doof ingests the Cutonium first, trying to cover when Perry finds him once again meeting up with Peter the Panda.
That's just great. What kind of a world are we living in where a guy can't down the contents of a mysterious urn found in a trench without undergoing major physical transmogrification, really?
The first Meep episode ended with a completely fake teaser for a sequel episode full of all sorts of trailer cliches. So when it came time to actually make the actual sequel, they had to work in those sequences. And of course, by and large, they subvert the expected context from those scenes.
I want your hat on my desk. Because it rains a lot in Seattle, and I'd like to spray it with this cool new waterproofing treatment.
But it's not only a sequel to the Chronicles of Meep, it's also another sequel to It's About Time, the first time travel episode which introduced Peter. Oh gee, what a surprise, a Phineas and Ferb episode expertly tying disparate storylines together. And while Isabella's role in the first Meep episode was primarily comic relief, here she gets to actually save the day because she's a freaking fireside girl, dang it! It is a genuine shame that they never got around to making Meet Me in St. Louis.
Yes, I'm just a guy who's a sucker for the sounds of mass transit!
Number 4. Nerds of a Feather. Phineas and Ferb are off to the big sci-fi fantasy convention to meet their special effects hero Clive Addison, played by Kevin Smith.
I became a special effects artist to join the nations of this earth together in peace and hope.
Unfortunately, Irving and Albert's sibling rivalry leads to an all-out nerd war.
They actually think all those silly magic elves movies are better than Space Adventure's epic science fiction genius.
Stumbleberry Thinkbat and The Lost Shadow of Darkling Tower alone was smarter and more realistic than all the even-numbered space adventure movies combined.
And Phineas and Ferb get stuck in the middle. Television does have a long history of attempting to portray some of the struggles of being a nerd, and most shows throughout history focused on the struggles of interacting with non-nerds, primarily jocks and bullies. But never before this episode had I seen such a great portrayal of so many of the frustrations from within nerd culture, such as the us versus them mentality that pressures so many people into choosing one franchise and dismissing all others and shaming people who dare like the wrong thing.
These Momo nuts are such an embarrassment.
Seriously.
Whether it's the rift between the sci-fi and fantasy camps or Candace's embarrassment at her own love for Ducky Momo, this episode provided a sadly all too relatable look at some of the attitudes that make it a little harder to claim geek pride, when all you want to do is enjoy the thing you like. And that alone would make a really great episode, but then it gets pushed over the limit with another subplot.
A fugitive, semi-aquatic Special Forces amateur stage magician framed for a crime he didn't commit. The 1865 assassination of Abraham Lincoln joins forces with a rogue trillionaire inventor extreme fighting champion from the future.
Doof and Puss, a laugh-out-loud hilarious pastiche of 80s action shows that Doof is pitching to another Hollywood big shot played by Seth MacFarlane.
Just a thought, though. Can we give the platypus a girlfriend?
And it's exactly the type of ridiculous, silly, awesome show that would inspire a convention-attending cult following. This episode is an indictment of the toxic elements of geek culture at its worst, but it's also a celebration of the greatness of geek culture at its best, and how our favorite characters, stories, and franchises can fill us with joy when we need it most.
I gotta say, guys, that was hands down the best special effects show ever, and I've been a Burning Man.
Number 3.
Okay, give it a chance. We want your honest opinion.
We know it's a little weird.
Ferb TV. You know how I just mentioned those Doof and Puss sequences from Nerds of a Feather? How about a whole episode of just stuff like that? Essentially, this is a sketch show starring the supporting cast of Phineas and Ferb, where they headline a whole bunch of fake commercials and fake shows within shows. Buford judges a cooking reality show, Baljeet is a Dr. Ninja, Susie and Norm of all pairings have a sitcom, but hey, he makes a great addition to the Hall of Sitcom Norms. The Clint Balloon and the Babyhead host a variety show. Actually, that one makes a lot of sense. And I would absolutely watch any of these spin-offs. You know, as well as the Fireside Girls and the Alka Files and Duke 101 and any of the other potential spin-offs that have ever been teased. You know what, Disney? Just go ahead and make Ferb TV an actual network, okay? And finally, we get our first look at what Ducky Momo is actually like.
Poor Ducky Momo still can't find the bridge. Can you help him find the bridge?
Behind you! It's behind you!
Crying out loud, just turn around!
Rotate your body!
A show about desperately trying to get someone to notice something. I have no idea why that would have resonated with a young Candace. Number 2. Road to Danville. Doof has the title role in a play, so he tries to speed along his usual routine by sending Perry to the middle of the desert. But Perry drags him along too, and now they have to put aside their differences if Doof's gonna make it back in time for curtain.
Do it for the orphans! That I might perform in front of someday if I ever do a show in an orphanage.
Functionally, this is a bottle episode where the bottle is the desert.
Why do we always see cow skulls in the desert? And why do you only see the skull? Did the body die somewhere else? It makes no sense.
And it's 11 minutes of Doof, Perry, and the full emotional spectrum of their mutual love-hate relationship.
You are what's been holding me back all these years. Oh, very clever.
All the rivalry, bitterness, insensitivity, compassion, and supportiveness that comes with it. And man, do I love watching these best friends and mortal enemies do their thing.
I want you to know that you are appreciated, Perry the Platypus. You are appreciated.
And my number 1 favorite Phineas and Ferb episode, Roller Coaster the Musical. In this episode, Phineas's plan for the day is basically to remake the pilot episode, except now with songs. Hey, it was one of the very few episodes that didn't have any.
We'll do all the same things, except we'll break into spontaneous singing and choreography with no discernible music source.
What assurance would we have that everyone else would also break into song and do the same thing?
I don't know. I think they probably will.
Fair enough. I'm in.
Right off the bat, we know we're in for a special ride when the opening number is filled with visual homages to a number of beloved classic musicals. And then all those formula beats that the pilot episode introduced finally get the musical accompaniment they deserve.
Ooh, I'm gonna tell Mom, and when she sees what you are doing, you are going down.
You're going down when I get Mom to see this ridiculous monstrosity. Every day I come over, and here's what I say. What you doing? What you doing? What's today's activity? Mom, look, don't roll your eyes at me. Mom, look, just come over and see. They built a submarine, a time machine, a haunted house that made me scream. Drove cattle through the mall, built a giant bowling ball, blew me up to 50 feet, a cherry dragged me down the street.
Aren't you a little young to build a roller coaster?
Yes, I am.
Well, I must say that I'm really quite impressed. But all your permits are in order. Don't forget the bricks and mortar. And if you need a power loader, be my guest.
Back in Gamer Stop, I always had to keep it real.
Scream if you want more.
And yeah, being a remake, there's a lot of recycled animation in this episode, but you can't even pretend to call this episode lazy, because for every repeated scene from the pilot, there's then a brand new, visually elaborate, intricately animated musical number. It combines everything that made the pilot great with everything that made every episode since the pilot great. And the episode wraps things up with basically every character we've seen from every episode so far coming together to share the central thesis of the whole series.
Every day's a brand new day, baby, carpe diem.
And there you have it, my 30 favorite Phineas and Ferb episodes that fall within the parameters I laid out in part 1 of this video. So, what are your favorite Phineas and Ferb episodes? And how excited are you for Milo Murphy's Law? Let's discuss this in the comments, and until next time, Dave is out. Peace! Welcome to the D List, the show where I list things and my name begins with a D. I know I took a break from doing one of those things for a while, but the other one remained true the whole time. Anyway, I'm gonna talk about Phineas and Ferb again. Back in 2015, I talked about how much I love Phineas and Ferb, particularly the way it uses a seemingly repetitive formulaic structure to build a larger, cohesive world filled with rich characters. And back in 2016, I counted down my favorite episodes of Phineas and Ferb, making a point of saying, I'm only including 11 and 22-minute episodes of the show. I won't be including the movie, the hour-long specials, or the two-parter Where's Perry, but they're all really fantastic and would probably steal all the top spots if I was including them. But I did always intend on doing a follow-up list ranking the special episodes someday. And then I did a Q&A video just this past Easter where I opened the floodgates to questions from you, and I got a question from Chandler from Theme Park Backlot who asked me,
Hey Dave, what's your favorite of the hour-long Phineas and Ferb specials?
And Chandler's question prompted me to bump up my plans for ranking the specials from someday to right now. So here's my rankings of Phineas and Ferb's extended length adventures so far. Number 11, The Auka Files. Perry is training several new recruits, including Doof, but he's frustrated when his team isn't exactly up to his level yet. Meanwhile, evil scientist Paul Rubens takes over Auka with robotic fleas, and the J.K. Simmons, Josh Gad, and Stephen Rootbugs from Doof 101 attempt to become agents. And much like Doof 101, this has all the makings of a backdoor pilot with its own pretty rockin' theme song.
All the odds are stacked against you and your prospects of thrill. Call the organization without a cool acronym. It's the Auka Files.
If there ever was a plan to make this a full series, I assume the 3 bugs would be the regular B story, since at one point early in Phineas and Ferb's development, they were going to be the regular C story.
What were the characters that you took away from that original pitch?
They were 3 bugs.
Obviously.
That we were big fans of Rocky and Bullwinkle, and one of the things we thought of was having not only the Perry and Doofenshmirtz story, but then at certain points cutting away to these bugs
that lived in the same world and were also affected by the different stories.
And the only ones who were kind of aware that it was a show.
I'm glad we cut it. Yeah. I'm glad we cut it just to lessen the level.
In 11 minutes, what we needed was to service another storyline in our show.
4 or 5 is good.
The episode centers on Perry once again having to learn teamwork, but last time he did that, he was learning to work with somebody competent. Now he has to learn to lead a team who doesn't quite have it together yet. But the team learns to use each of their strengths to work together to save the day. The episode's full of the usual callbacks.
All we need is a big rubber band and 2 palm trees to launch us.
You watch way too much TV, Wendell.
Oh, just the one show.
And wacky gags, some of which are pretty dark.
Tell my wife I love her.
And I honestly wouldn't mind seeing Perry's Auka team fight evil together again in the future. Number 10. Phineas and Ferb Save Summer. The special begins with a musical sequence so ambitious that all the recycled animation it uses is completely understandable. Then the plot begins in earnest as 2 rivals have their events right next to each other. Love Muffin registered as Hatfield and Auka registered as Capulet, which is just one notch more clever than necessary, and I love it. In the aftermath of the brawl, Monogram gets fired from his post by Jay Leno, and he doesn't even get the dignity of a TBS pickup. Then Doof moves the Earth away from the sun, risking the loss of summer forever, and nobody knows what to do about it.
And I will do everything in my power to recommend you wear a cardigan or light sweater.
But all my sweaters are ugly and Christmas themed.
Well, then just wear warmer clothes.
Oh, great. Even fictional politicians refuse to act on climate change. Phineas and Ferb try to move the Earth back into place, but it's no easy task. Meanwhile, Love Muffin goes full West Side Story on Auka, leading even Monty to get involved in the fight. And Candace tries to get over her fear of spiders, which is only made worse when one hospitalizes Stacy. That's dark. There's quite a few fun beats in this one. Monty Monogram is a character who doesn't get all that much screen time, so it's nice to see him fulfill his dream of following in his father's footsteps and fighting evil with Auka.
I've got to warn Carl.
Okay, tell me you didn't hear that.
Feel the building settling.
So our building has a sudden urge to warn Carl?
And Doof and Rodney's rivalry is always a delight to watch.
You sounded like a bashful Santa Claus pitching softballs to a girl in a bikini.
All right, number 4. You don't know what that sounds like.
Wallace Shawn has a fun guest role as a clueless spelunking instructor.
Now we're gonna squeeze past this stalagmite. Wait, which one is on top?
Actually, I believe that's just a hole.
Oh, I seem to be trapped.
Turn away, folks. I'm going to have to saw my arm off.
And I never get tired of seeing the current whereabouts of the building from Doof's side of the moon. This might have some of the biggest stakes of any Phineas and Ferb episode. Usually it's just the tri-state area on the line, not the entire planet. So compared to that, Candace's stakes seem pretty small, even if they are intensely personal. But they have to be overcome in order to help with the big stakes. And Phineas means well, but he's not great at being supportive to somebody going through something.
Just being silly. Heck, I don't even remember what I was afraid of.
Spiders? Candace, you forgot the box.
Yeah, subtle nuance is not Phineas' strength, is it? Although I guess he's better at it than Buford.
Buford! I think there must be something wrong with this program.
Number 9. Last day of summer. In the series finale, sort of, it's the last day of summer and Candace fails at her last chance to bust the boys. But when she activates Doof's do-overinator, she and Doof end up in an endless loop. It's almost like the show is saying, oh yeah, you haters accused the formula of being repetitive before, yeah, you ain't seen nothing yet. But soon the loop threatens to rip apart the space-time continuum and already starts erasing things from existence, including Phineas and Ferb themselves.
Phineas and Ferb are gone! I'm sure it's going to be all right, dear, but who are Phineas and Ferb?
Wow, crazy how it sucked up that groundhog, huh?
The what?
Oh please, why would a story about characters living the same day over and over involve groundhogs? Meanwhile, Vanessa tries to tell Doof she wants to move out, and he uses the looping day to try to become less of a loser, all while ignoring what she really wants from him. This is one last big adventure for the gang, at least for the moment, so it focuses on the characters who have always been the real protagonists of the series, Candace and Doof. Phineas and the kids got their big finale with Act Your Age. And it's really nice to go out on a note of these two working so hard to save their families, even if their methods are a little misguided. I love anytime Candace works with her brothers and anytime Doof works with Perry, so I'm glad this is the note they chose to send the series off. And while this episode closes the door for this particular summer, it does set things up for the future, such as Doof's turn to the good side.
I hear Alka's looking for a few good animals.
You know, until his relapses at Halloween and New Year's and Christmas, of course. But what makes this episode work as a finale so well is the final musical number, where the fourth wall is completely down and the gang reminisces about all of their adventures, and they thank us for joining them.
Because it's been a great summer and we thank you for coming along. Thank you for coming along.
Number 8. Mission Marvel.
Aunt May! Phineas and Ferb are making a crossover.
Doof's power draininator bounces off Phineas and Ferb's space station and hits the Avengers, draining them of their powers. I guess this is after Banner turned into the Hulk one too many times and was unable to turn back, just like he appeared in Ragnarok. So he's still the Hulk, just not strong. So while Hydra uses Doof to get to the heroes, the Avengers team up with Phineas and Ferb, and S.H.I.E.L.D. teams up with Alka to set things right. This was the first big project announced after Disney bought Marvel, and it mostly draws from the Marvel animated television universe, using its cast including Chi McBride as Nick Fury.
I'm going to proceed as if this were going really well.
But it draws a little from the Marvel Cinematic Universe as well, featuring a few visual homages to the Avengers, since that was the biggest movie they had to go off of at the time. But it does sort of inadvertently predict several future MCU moments.
You know, Stark Industries offers summer internships.
Thanks, but this summer's pretty packed.
So give me the hammer. What do? I just stick out my hand, right? Come on, baby. Come to Papa.
That is not how it works.
What do you mean? I've got your powers.
Wielding Mjolnir is about worthiness, not power.
You think that was Howard the Duck?
Time is of the essence. We've got to... No, it wasn't Howard the Duck.
What? I'm just saying.
He did have a bill.
And it predicted several conversations we're still having about Marvel media.
None of the women superheroes showed up, so it's all about testosterone and towers and fighting.
All I ever do is quips. Like this one, for instance. And the one preceding it.
Can we please not kill the gravitas of this moment?
Sorry.
There's plenty of references sprinkled throughout to all sorts of Marvel media.
I've always told her, don't ever make Phineas angry. You wouldn't like him when he's angry.
Is your head gonna burst into flames, or am I thinking of somebody else?
And a few references to things that aren't Marvel, but are still fun references.
Oh, the rustic exterior is a facade. Wait till you see the inside.
Oh, man. You guys are good.
Just a little British sci-fi technology.
As a Marvel comedy special, it's a lot of fun, and it's worth watching just for the brilliant casting choice of Danny Trejo as Venom.
Was he bitten by a radioactive platypus?
And as a Phineas and Ferb special, it's pretty good. It's a nice sequel to The Beak, now with real superheroes involved. It's a little controversial for being the meanest we ever see Phineas be to Candace, which, yeah, is a little unsettling. And I get it, the stakes are high here, and she did mess several things up, but come on, dude. It's partly on you for not giving her better instructions. That said, considering how often Candace gets annoyed with Phineas, even when he's completely oblivious to her annoyance, it is an interesting exploration of a role reversal, and it does nicely set up a very sweet reconciliation at the end. Isabella's arc also seems a little underserved, like it doesn't really set up that she's feeling this way until she's about to sing a song about feeling this way, but at least her underserved arc is used to address the underserving of the MCU's non-male heroes. But Buford and Baljeet get a few nice moments together as we finally hear Buford admit what we've known for a long time.
I worry about you, because you're my best friend.
God, I'd hate to see how you treat your enemies. Hey, if Marvel characters have always existed in this world, has Buford been wearing a Punisher shirt this whole time? Number 7. Phineas and Ferb's Christmas Vacation. In one of just a handful of episodes set well after the summer, Phineas and Ferb want to thank Santa for everything he's done for them. Meanwhile, Candace is trying to figure out what Jeremy wants for Christmas, and Doof wants a reason to hate Christmas to justify using his Naughtyinator to stop Santa from coming. This is a charming Christmas special that pays tribute to other classic Christmas specials. Doof's basically trying to one-up the Grinch by preventing Christmas altogether instead of stealing it in the act, and all it takes to push him to do this are some annoying carolers.
What sort of plan is that anyway? Let's go to a stranger's house and in song form refuse to leave unless he hands over a food dish no one's prepared since the 16th century.
Hey, as far as unreasonable demands in Christmas carols go, you're getting off easy.
If the person who you sing to can provide the wassail, you are entitled to his debit card and PIN number.
Of course, Doof's not alone in finding these carolers annoying. They also find each other annoying.
That's due, but it's Christmas, Becky.
You gotta get over me, Josh.
If there's one criticism I could make, Candace's story is resolved a little too easily.
We can skip this one. I already got him what he really wanted. Yes!
I guess this whole thing was pretty easily resolved.
But you know what? After all the wild coincidences that have made life miserable for Candace over the years, I think she's earned one that makes life convenient for her. Besides, it all sets up the obligatory Christmas special Gift of the Magi scene.
Wait, Santa, it's true, isn't it? You planned everything so everyone's Christmas wish would come true.
Yeah, Santa was behind almost every moment of this episode, all setting it up perfectly so that everyone would get their Christmas wish. From Phineas's wish to be like Santa to Doof's wish to find a reason to hate Christmas. I mean, Santa even got Doof the Naughtyinator and then destroyed the Naughtyinator just so everything would go according to plan. Santa carefully orchestrated everything from the top, like a benevolent chess master leaving no room for free will, or at least knowing you well enough to know exactly what you will do with your free will. It's a very Calvinist take on Santa. But what do you expect from a show beloved for its intricate comedy plotting? This one's not as long as the later specials, clocking in at somewhere between 33 and 36 minutes depending on which version you're watching. Yeah, there are a couple of different cuts available of this episode, with differences including an entire musical number.
Does he want DVD or some video games? What does he want? Maybe one of those new digital frames.
But the differences between cuts aren't really make or break for me. The DVD release has a shorter version, but it makes up for it with great bonus features, including a look at the show's songwriting process.
This melody's getting so higher. I'm developing vocal notes.
I'm putting that down in invisible ink for you.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
Oh, and if you can, track down the Toys R Us DVD release, which came with an exclusive bonus disc that featured Chronicles of Meep commentaries. Very hard to find, but absolutely worth it. Number 6. Night of the Living Pharmacists. Doof has accidentally caused an outbreak of zombies that look like him, and it's up to Phineas and Ferb to stop this invasion. All while Candace tries to learn to be cool from Vanessa's friends, and Isabella tries to confess her crush on Phineas to earn her emotional bravery patch. This Halloween special starts things off with an absolutely perfect credit sequence that evokes Saul Bass and Bernard Herrmann. Man, I love that. And it has some genuinely unsettling sequences, like the Doof zombie versions of the Alka agents. But of course, it's mostly just really funny jokes.
There's no internet!
I've got to know what's going on! Yeah! Prince is back, baby!
Wait, this is all stuff that happened yesterday.
I love that Doof's disaster here is extra embarrassing because his daughter's having a sleepover. And I really love any chance to develop the friendship between Candace and Vanessa. It is kind of a shame that Stacy doesn't get involved in the main plot, but her cutaways are great. And this zombie movie parody gets the best seal of approval imaginable by featuring a cameo from the inventor of the zombie movie, George A. Romero, as a reporter with the puntastic name
Don Adaded. Don?
Thanks, Gordon. I'm standing here in downtown Danville. It's an unbelievable scene.
This episode makes history by inviting Sean and Ed to join the likes of Oswald the Lucky Rabbit and the cast of Oh Brother Where Art Thou as characters who are technically both Disney characters and Universal characters.
I mean, you can't just grow a lab coat. I don't know, perhaps the disease infects your clothing as well.
But most importantly, this episode makes history as the first time Phineas and Ferb team up with Doof. You know, without having their memories erased.
Water should change everyone back.
Isn't that a bit of a leap?
No, I'm a scientist. I'm gonna go with him on that.
Although Phineas and Isabella do lose the memory of her actually earning her patch, so is she just gonna feel unsatisfied about that, or what? Number 5. Milo Murphy's Law, the Phineas and Ferb effect. That's right, it counts, I'm including it. In the Season 2 premiere of Milo Murphy's Law, the Pistachions have just about taken over Danville. So Milo, Orton, Dakota, and Cavendish find the future Professor Time, or as he's known today, Heinz Doofenshmirtz. And Zach and Melissa get trapped with Baljeet, Buford, and Candace until they're rescued by Phineas and Ferb. This episode addresses Phineas and Ferb's ridiculously good luck and pairs it with Milo Murphy's scientifically terrible luck to great effect.
Well, what do you usually do when things go wrong?
We have no frame of reference for that.
This juggles the two masters of being a Phineas and Ferb reunion and being the resolution to a Milo Murphy's Law cliffhanger, and it handles both of these tasks admirably. Granted, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense as just a Phineas and Ferb reunion. You really have to have been watching Season 1 of Milo Murphy's Law for this to make any sense. But if you're already watching Milo and you miss Phineas, it's satisfying on both counts. As a Milo fan, the emotional payoff of Dakota and Cavendish's relationship is beautiful. As a Weird Al fan, it's nice to see him in another Bruno Mars parody video. As a Flight of the Conchords fan, it's nice hearing noted Bowie impersonator Jermaine Clement sing a song about pressure.
It's just a lot of pressure.
That's not necessarily inner city related. And as a fan of wacky time travel shenanigans that don't quite make sense, boy does this ever deliver.
Wait a minute, why am I still part planned?
And as a Phineas and Ferb fan, it's just really nice seeing everybody in action again and knowing they're still out there making the most of every day.
I think the simpler thing would be to ditch the kid who makes bad things happen.
No, Candace, we need all the soldiers we can get.
Oh sure, Phineas, where was that attitude during Mission Marvel? Number 4. Phineas and Ferb, Star Wars. It's summer in a galaxy far, far away. Doofenshmirtz wants credit for designing the Death Star and to amass some force to power his Sithinator. Stormtrooper Candace wants to be promoted to battle instead of running errands for Darth Vader. And Phineas and Ferb don't want to leave Tatooine. Of course the summer lovers love living on the sunniest planet in the galaxy. But when the Death Star plans fall into their possession, they have to follow R2-D2 across the galaxy. It's a deceptively risky proposition, parodying Star Wars. It's already the most parodied thing out there. How many more jokes are there left to make about Star Wars? But if there's one thing we know this show excels at, it's finding brand new jokes in a well-worn formula. This isn't even the first project to give Star Wars the Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead treatment. It's been done by fan films and official Lucasfilm projects alike. But man, what a great fit for this special. So much of the show's humor is already based on near misses between the various plot lines, so near misses between the Danville characters and the Star Wars scenes is a delightful add-on. And you want to talk finding new Star Wars jokes? I have seen a lot of Star Wars parodies in my day, but I don't think I've ever seen a visual gag made from the title crawl itself. But of course this special takes just about every opportunity for a joke. In fact, I can only really think of one missed opportunity.
Too short for a stormtrooper?
Yes, I am.
This special accomplishes a high-wire balancing act by tying in iconic moments from the original film, plus iconography and gags from the other films, all with a cohesive narrative with character arcs and emotional stakes. The Phineas and Ferb characters fit pretty naturally into this take on the Star Wars galaxy, and there are fun cameos from the likes of Simon Pegg, Ross Marquand, and the Mythbusters. Plus, the special goes a little deeper into the moral philosophy of Star Wars than most Star Wars media, let alone most Star Wars parodies, touching on the innocent human lives who get brainwashed by propaganda into serving the Empire. It's a great Star Wars parody and a great Phineas and Ferb alternate universe story.
So long, Perry the Platypus. Now I can live to fight in the sequel.
Yeah, when are we getting the Darth and Schmurtz Strikes Back? And will the Milo Murphy's Law gang be living on Cloud City? Look, Disney Plus isn't going to overstuff itself with content. Number 3. Phineas and Ferb the movie, Across the Second Dimension. Phineas and Ferb are now starring in a Disney Channel original movie, and all it takes to set the movie off is converging the A and B plots as the inciting incident instead of the resolution. When they help Doof fix his other Dimensionator, they find a dimension where an eviler Doof has already taken over the tri-state area. Perry, meanwhile, is desperate to keep his secret life from the boys so he won't have to be relocated, but the only thing more important to him than staying with the boys is keeping them safe. Phineas feels betrayed when he learns the truth about Perry, but they have to work together to find their way back to their own dimension. Candace, meanwhile, finds herself eager to grow up, until she meets a version of herself who had to grow up too early, and it gets a little heavy for an animated DCOM, and I really, really love it. The movie strikes the perfect balance of being accessible to a first-time viewer, but rewarding for fans who have seen every episode. Peppered throughout the movie are both explicit callbacks and more subtle bits of world building, like the fact that the resistance layer under Isabella's house is converted from Pinky's hideout. And it's a nice treat to actually get to see the dimensions that the baby alien, the giant floating baby head, and Candace's hallucinatory zebra come from. Man, this sequence must have been so much fun to board. And of course there are some fun references to the world outside of the show, too.
Get me! I'm a George O'Keeffe painting.
Well, why don't you ask it, Kierkegaard? What? Existentialist trading cards. They came with the gum.
But even with all the callbacks, the broad story beats and the characters are explained clearly enough that you understand all the stakes even if you haven't spent the past 2 seasons with these characters. But if you do know the show well, man, that climax is really satisfying. And for me, the most satisfying beat of all is Candace knowing how to use her own bad luck to save the day.
I'm gonna bus my brothers to my mom, and I'm gonna fail!
See, if only she remembered later that weaponizing bad luck was an option, she probably would have been a lot nicer to Milo. And yeah, because the series wasn't ending yet, everything had to go back to normal, so the characters had to forget about the most exciting thing that ever happened to them. But they managed to do that in a meaningful and emotional way. And it's nice that the show later gave us a follow-up with the characters who didn't forget about this adventure. At the start of the series, one of the core running gags was how Phineas and Ferb's plot and Perry the Platypus's plot don't have anything to do with each other until they intersect at the end. So it's really nice knowing that all this time, Perry was paying attention and he really did care. So even though Phineas and Ferb don't remember, it's nice that Perry will never forget the best day of his life. The day that he finally got to team up with his best friends. And the movie features some of the catchiest songs from the entire run of the series. And you know what a high bar that is to clear.
This is a robot ride.
Even the deleted song is one of the catchiest ever written.
Whatever they build every day, it gets taken away. No one sees it, of course, it's a mysterious force.
Oh, and don't forget about the Slash music video. Unless you're watching one of the cuts that doesn't have the Slash music video at the end, in which case, I'm sorry. Number 2. Where's Perry? Parts 1 and 2. When the Flynn Fletcher family and friends go to Africa, Perry has to fake sickness to stay home and thwart Doof's plot. But it turns out Doof's plot was just a decoy to get Perry out of the way. Which he wouldn't have had to deal with Perry anyway if he hadn't acted suspicious, causing Monogram to make him cancel his trip. He could have just gone on with his plan without Perry interrupting, but at least this way he got to ruin Perry's day while getting rid of him early. Then Doof attempts his real plan, hitting Monogram with an Evilinator so that Monogram would hand Alka over to him. Really presumptuous of Doof to assume that just becoming evil would be enough to get Monogram to join him. I mean, has he learned nothing from his relationship with Rodney? But when the Inator hits Carl instead, unleashing all of his built-up resentment towards Alka, nothing goes according to plan. Meanwhile, Candace is nervous about why Jeremy wants to talk to her and why she hasn't heard from him yet, as she continues to be one of television's best depictions of anxiety.
Maybe there's a good reason why he didn't show up. And he probably wants to tell me he wants us to start wearing matching sweaters or something cute like that. Yeah. It's him! Jeremy, hello?
This episode possibly could have worked as a 44-minute instead of 2 22-minutes, but they make the most of the two-parter by giving everybody a major cliffhanger. Some characters' cliffhangers are resolved more swiftly than others. Carl gets so few episodes to shine, so it's great to see him get major character development and a big rockin' musical number.
Yeah, I'm evil for extra credit.
And Doof and Monogram get so few chances to be a duo, and it's always nice to hear Dan and Swampy razz each other. As these characters or as these characters, it's always hilarious.
He's not officially an employee. He's unpaid.
You don't pay him?
He gets college credit.
Are you sure you're not evil?
Oh hey, you heard it here first. Doofenshmirtz is an ally to the young working class. This is a great episode for fan service, not only bringing back the robots from I Was a Middle-Aged Robot, but providing some of the best moments of Alka action, what with Perry recruiting the population of a continent and Francis himself joining the fight.
We're surrounded by parts.
And it's also a great episode for emotional beats, making the most of our investment in the love between Perry and the kids, Candace and Jeremy, and even Francis and Carl. Really, I'm just a sucker for any time Perry shows how much he truly loves Phineas and Ferb. And my number one favorite Phineas and Ferb special, Summer Belongs to You. We're just about 100 episodes into the summer, and we're only just now getting to the summer solstice. And in an effort to make the longest day of summer even longer, Phineas Flynn finally goes full Phileas Fogg by chasing the sun around the world in a day. But Buford makes it personal by betting him that if he doesn't do it, he has to spend the rest of the summer doing nothing. Meanwhile, Candace is nervous about her relationship status with Jeremy, and Vanessa's upset that Doof is spending their vacation together on work. As the first of the actual hour-long specials, not counting the almost hour-long Christmas special, this does a lot of the heavy lifting for solidifying the expansion of the world of the show. Introducing elements like the name of Perry's organization,
the OWCA, the organization without a cool acronym,
and even running gags like the Klimpaloon. It also showed that these characters could sustain a longer story, and the writer's knack for silly setups leading to satisfying payoffs doesn't need to be limited to quick cartoon gags. Although they're still very, very good at quick cartoon gags.
Welcome to the 27th Annual Substitute Teacher Day. We begin by, all right, who's the wise guy?
The length also allows for more breathing room for character development. We get another peek at Buford's hidden depths that would be explored further later.
Voltaire, Buford, really? Oh, I can't help it. Paris does it to me every time.
We get another look at Vanessa's conflicted relationship with her father, and the maybe unfortunate ways she starts to take after him.
Vanessa, you rented a scooter.
Yeah. Rented.
And we follow up on her dynamic with Ferb from The Necessary Roughness. We start to get real with Candace and Jeremy's relationship, and man, Isabella's song is heartbreaking.
Oh, how can he not feel the same way?
In fact, all the songs in this one are great. Sure, some of them have obvious influences. But a catchy homage to a catchy song is still catchy, so what's the problem? And the first song of the special has some pretty big-name guest singers. This got the ball rolling for how impressive these specials could be, but even without that, it's still just a really great episode of Phineas and Ferb. And that's my ranking of all of Phineas and Ferb's extended-length adventures. At least so far. There is going to be another movie coming to Disney+, which I'm really excited about, although it's not like I really needed another reason to give this giant entertainment monopoly every last dollar I have. But until then, this is my ranking of these specials and movies, so what about you? Where do you rank each special and movie? Let's discuss this in the comments, and until next time, this is Dave, signing off. Shaun of the Dead. Simon Pegg and Edgar Wright's Shaun of the Dead is a modern universal classic, a horror comedy that delivers on both fronts. Pegg and Nick Frost were propelled to international fame for their portrayals of Shaun and Ed, two slackers who find themselves at the center of a zombie apocalypse. But later, Shaun and Ed faced another apocalypse. In Danville, during the Night of the Living Pharmacists.
You get touched by a pharmacist, you become a pharmacist. I mean, you can't just grow a lab coat. I don't know, perhaps the disease infects your clothing as well.
Simon Pegg's Phineas and Ferb fandom is well known, and he and Nick Frost had both appeared on the show before, so when the show was doing a Halloween special that was a parody of zombie movies, how could they not include the leads of one of the most beloved zombie comedies of all time? The special also gave a cameo to the inventor of zombie movies. They were clearly going for clout here. Sure, it might be a stretch to consider this a canonical appearance of the real Shaun and Ed. It's more along the lines of pop culture characters showing up on The Simpsons. But usually in those cases, it's not the literal co-creator of the characters playing any of them, so I'm counting this.
I still say this makes no sense at all.
I know, right?
Welcome aboard. This is Captain David Gansel in the armchair. I know it's probably not your first armchair Imagineering, and it's not mine either. Well, Agent P's World Showcase Adventure is turning into a DuckTales game. Yeah, I saw it coming. I'm not mad at the decision. I like the new DuckTales a lot, and it's only fitting. Phineas and Ferb were only brought in the first place because they were also replacing a long off-the-air Disney television cartoon. But between this and the closure of the California Adventure Dance Party a few years ago, Phineas and Ferb's presence is severely dwindling in the parks. And yeah, I know, I already talked about how TV shows in general already have a limited presence in theme parks, but come on, it's Phineas and Ferb, the show that single-handedly changed the trajectory of Disney television animation. And what's more, there is not a single Disney park that Phineas and Ferb would be out of place in. Oh, don't believe me? Here's where Phineas and Ferb could go in literally any Disney park. First, Disneyland Park. And also Magic Kingdom and the International Disneyland Parks. Yes, the show has had specific adventures that could be shoehorned into a lot of different lands, but the most organic fit would be Tomorrowland. After all, the show is a sci-fi comedy about creativity and building things, and I know the perfect way to do a new Phineas and Ferb adventure while still paying tribute to Tomorrowland's legacy. Behold, Innaterventions! Doofenshmirtz's latest plan to take over the tri-state area involves holding an open house to show off all of his innators. He takes us, the guests, on the tour involving the innators, but little does Doof know that our tour group happens to be working with Alka. That's right, one of the pre-show rooms is Perry's lair, complete with the screen where Monogram and Carl give us the briefing. They tell us that Doof's tour is supposed to end with the mind control innator, where all the tour guests will start doing Doof's bidding. But Perry is already on his way to the tour to stop it, and he needs our help. The Flynn Fletcher family take the tour of this open house, and hilarity ensues. We get in an Omnimover and see several scenes of actual mechanical innators with a combination of Pepper's Ghost cartoon characters and animatronic characters taking the tour. Phineas and Ferb are inspired by all the innators, and they build similar versions, but, you know, without the for evil part. Every time the boys slip away to build something, Perry swoops in to disable every innator. It would be a great opportunity for lots of Phineas and Ferb gags, plus some actual educational opportunities, as we see the different ways technology can be used, for good and for evil. And maybe I'm in the minority here, but I genuinely believe that the Doof building would be a really fun addition to the Tomorrowland skyline. Okay, California Adventure. Again, a lot of places they could be shoehorned in here. California Screamin' could have become their coaster instead of the Incredibles. The Fireside Girls could take over Redwood Creek Challenge Trail. The Beak could join up at Avengers Campus. The Bread Factory Tour could get new hosts. But let's face it, the land that needs the biggest rework is Hollywoodland, specifically the Hollywood Studios courtyard. Yeah, it has the lesser version of PhilharMagic and the slightly less awful version of Superstar Limo, but beyond that, it's just empty show buildings that you can meet Avengers in front of, and you won't be able to meet them there for very long. One of these buildings needs to become a permanent attraction, and Hollywoodland needs more attractions about how movies are made, beyond just the couple things that almost touch on animation in the animation building. So why not build Phineas and Ferb Studios? I know for a while at the old Downtown Disney in Florida, there was a put yourself in a Phineas and Ferb episode temporary attraction, but I didn't check it out myself, so I have no idea what it was like, but here's what mine's like. We get in the tram and take the tour of Phineas and Ferb Studios as we see the boys working on their latest movie. And yes, all of their friends are in it. Along the way, we learn all about the different steps of the filmmaking process. So basically, it's the dearly departed Disaster at Universal Studios Florida, but with Christopher Walken replaced with Phineas and Ferb. Meanwhile, Doof keeps trying to hack the feed to put his own subliminal messages into the next big hit movie, but naturally, Perry takes care of him. Finally, we get to watch the movie, and little did we realize it stars us. Well, we're extras, as a scene shot earlier involves a crowd shot of our tram. And of course, at the end, you can buy the DVD or the digital download of the Phineas and Ferb film starring you. Maybe you get it for free with your PhotoPass, but that seems awfully generous for Disney. This could also be a good addition to Walt Disney Studios in Paris and Hollywood Studios in Florida, which also has very few Magic of Making Movies attractions left. Hollywood Studios could also use one of its 104 live show venues to do an abridged version of that Phineas and Ferb live tour that used to happen, just with better costumes than that. Although, that's actually on par for Hollywood Studios live shows based on Disney television animation. And as mentioned in the comments of the very first Armchair Imagineering episode, Rock and Roller Coaster starring Love Handle sounds like a pretty good overlay. But really, Phineas and Ferb don't need an excuse to be in Hollywood Studios, they just fit in because they're a TV show. Okay, Animal Kingdom. The obvious fit is the journey through Perry's Platypus Sanctuary. The boys decide Perry needs to make some other platypus friends, so they take him on a trip to the Platypus Sanctuary. But Doof is lurking there too. Doof is studying the platypus to once again try and find a weakness, since the giant robot man didn't work out the way he planned. But as Doof keeps trying to set traps for Perry, he keeps escaping, not using spy techniques, but using the platypus's natural defenses. And of course, at the end, you get to see a real platypus family. Because it's still Animal Kingdom. Maybe there can be a Perry animatronic among the real platypi, just like those CGI fish among the real fish at the seas. Finally, Epcot. Yes, they did already have a Phineas and Ferb presence, and yes, this could just be Florida's home for innate interventions, but why not use the opportunity to kill two birds with one stone, and use Phineas and Ferb to fix a ride that actually needs fixing? Hear me out. Okay, this isn't entirely my original idea. There was already a rumor several years ago that Imagineering was considering exactly this, and as soon as I heard that rumor, I started brainstorming how it could work. Phineas and Ferb are building something when they discover Figment, a purple dragon who's drawn to them because of their great imaginations, but he needs their help to find his creator, Dreamfinder. Along the journey, they keep encountering obstacles that can only be overcome with creative solutions, giving the boys plenty of chances to show off their imaginations, further impressing Figment. The different obstacles can cover different aspects of imagination, from arts to science, much like the original ride did. Finally, they find their way to the Dreamport and encounter Dreamfinder, who congratulates them on their wonderful imaginations. So it's basically Chronicles of Meep, but the cute little alien is now a cute little dragon. And the guy they're reuniting him with is actually a good guy. Would this be as good as restoring the original Journey into Imagination? No, but it would be better than leaving up the current version. It's also not my only idea for fixing Journey into Imagination, but we'll get to the others some other time. And that's just a few of the ways that Phineas and Ferb can fit in the Disney parks. Do you have your own ideas for where to put them? Let's discuss this in the comments, and until next time, this is Dave, signing off. Oh shoot, I forgot about Tokyo Disney Sea. Put the Lake Nose Monster in Aquatopia? Tokyo's got all the cool stuff already, they don't need my help.